What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to go over how to increase your damage output in Apex Legends. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe bell because I will be putting out videos every week to help you step up your game in Apex Legends. Without further ado, here's 10 tips and tricks to help you get your first 2k damage game. Before we get started, let me showcase that I am not a professional Apex player whatsoever. I don't have godlike aim. In fact, I have yet to even hit the 4k damage mark myself. And it pisses me off because I keep getting super close. I'm always off by 100 and something always goes wrong and life's just not fair. Okay, enough complaining. But regardless of that, I've had numerous 3k damage games, I've had hundreds of 2k damage games, and in this video I want to showcase the tips and tricks I use habitually to constantly hit those milestones, get my kill count up, and essentially see that champion screen at the end of the game, because that's what Apex Legends is all about, right? Is being the champion. Regardless, let's go ahead and get started with 10 tips and tricks you need to do in order to get your first 2k damage game. Tip number 1 is land hot. Landing with multiple teams gets you the best chance to ensure that you put some early damage on the board. If you land remotely, sure, you're uncontested for loot, but what ends up happening is the server gets wiped. Like typically 6 to 7 squads get removed in the first 2 minutes of the game. If you want a high damage game, it's important that you're a part of that wiping process. So when you land hot, be sure to get in hunt mode really quickly. What I mean by that is land in a building, as soon as you get a gun, go hunting. Don't search the entire building and the entire area to get the perfect shield, the perfect kit, the perfect attachments, because the more time you spend trying to kit yourself out, the more opportunity the opposition has to fully kit themselves out. In RNG, you may get a great gun and your opponents are still scrambling to find a shield or even a gun at that moment. So if you can take advantage of a golden opportunity when they're still scrambling and be in hunt mode and be a killer, it is a great way to increase your damage right off the bat. Tip number 2 is hit your shots. Now I know this is a lot easier said than done, and it's kind of like no doy. Like obviously if I'm gonna hit my shots, I'm gonna increase my damage. So how exactly do you do that? I would suggest going to the firing range and being familiar with every single gun in the game. Yes, even the Mozambique, yes, even the Sentinel, yes, even the gun that you seem to pick up every single time you play Apex Legends, even though you despise the hell out of it. Yes, and for that reason you should be familiar with it, because in this world full of RNG, you're typically not going to get your favorite gun off the rip. So being familiar with every gun is huge, and especially not even like a fully kitted gun. So when you go to the firing range, make sure that you have a bare bones version of that weapon. Don't put on gold stabilizers and stocks and mags and everything like that. No, just go into the firing range with a sight and practice your shots. I promise you, if you can hit shots with a bare bones version of a weapon, as you progressively go throughout the game and get attachments, you will become unstoppable late game. And that's really what it's all about, is being able to hit your shots and not being attachment dependent. Tip number 3 is get a comfortable loadout. You may see a lot of streamers use high DPS weapons such as like the R99, the Peacekeeper, the Wingman, the Havoc, so on and so forth. But if you're not good with those weapons, you don't necessarily have to use them right off bat, especially for your first 2k damage game. Get a comfortable loadout, something you're confident with. If you really like the Spitfire, use the Spitfire. If you really like the Flatline, use the Flatline. You really like the R301, use the goddamn R301, okay? Because confidence is of the essence when you're trying to hit your first 2k damage game. If you're more comfortable with the weapon, you're more confident. If you're more confident, you typically place more shots. If you place more shots, ding ding ding, you get a higher damage count. So don't worry about what the pros are doing, what your friend is doing. Focus on what loadout works for you. Tip number 4 is load out your inventory on ammo and heals. I cannot stress this enough. Ammo and heals are the backbone to your success in Apex Legends. If you can consistently fire your weapon and you can consistently heal in between fights, you are built for longevity. And it's a no-brainer. The longer you last each round in Apex Legends, the higher probability that you have to put up a high damage game. So, load out on ammo and heals. Don't prioritize attachments. Don't prioritize ultimate accelerants. Don't prioritize grenades, because at the end of the day, no one ever lost a fight because they ran out of grenades. That's just not the thing. But with ammo being the prime substance that helps you increase your damage count, and heals being the thing that keeps you at full health in any given moment, you need to prioritize those for your inventory. Tip number 5 is chase gunshots. In sales, the more leads you have, the more opportunities you have to convert sales. Same thing with Apex Legends. The more people you see, the more opportunities you have to increase your damage numbers. So it really is a numbers game. With that being said, if you're in a quiet area and you hear some shots popping off in the distance, it's super important to chase them immediately. The more time you spend chasing fights and being involved in fights instead of treating it like a treasure hunt and just looting, the more opportunities you give yourself to put damage on the board. Tip number 6, get ahead of your squad. Now, I'm not saying go rogue, become a one-man army, and disregard your team altogether. No, that is a surefire way to end some games prematurely, because Apex Legends is, in fact, a team-oriented game. What I am saying, though, is be the front runner in whatever direction your team is heading. Being first to a new fight or a third-party fight is huge, because you can usually put damage up before your teammates can, or before the opposition even sees you. If you play your cards right, you can get anywhere from 100 to 300 damage before people even start shooting back at you. I can't tell you how many times that I've ran ahead and sometimes wiped a complete squad by myself, or down 2 before my team even gets there, or even just down 1 before my team even gets there. It definitely makes for an easier fight, and again, it's an easy way to kind of boost your damage numbers in an organic standpoint. So a way to really get ahead of your team is to holster your weapon if you're not shooting it, and practice this routine of slide jumping. Slide jumping is by far the fastest way to travel across the map in Apex Legends. My rule of thumb is if you're not shooting your weapon, you holster your weapon, and you travel as fast as possible. Being quick has its perks, especially when you're chasing fights and initiating fights from the get. Tip number 7 is take long-range gunfights. If you've loaded out your inventory on ammo and heals, then that means you can spray bullets across the map without the fear of running out of ammo. Not to mention, if you're in an exchange situation, say that you tag the opposition for 150 and they tag you for 100, no sweat, it's long range, they can't press you. You can easily turn a corner, pop a couple shield cells, get back to full health, and rinse and repeat. This is a great way to boost your damage numbers if you have the resources in order to do that. So definitely take into account what you have in your inventory, see if you're equipped for a long range fight, and if you are, definitely take it, because it will help stack damage in the long run. Tip number 8 is bailing and repositioning. I don't care what anybody says, not every fight in any given circumstance is winnable in Apex Legends. I'm sure even the pro players will say that as well. But for whatever reason, people feel they need to commit to every single fight they get into. When in a sense, like, bailing and repositioning is one of the most undervalued and underutilized skills in Apex Legends, not just from increasing your damage standpoint, but staying in the game longer as well. How often do you turn a corner and a squad of 3 is looking at you in the face? You may say, oh, I'm trying to stack damage, so I may as well take on this fight. Or you can live to fight another day, bail completely and regroup with your teammates, or you can reposition, meaning that you turn the corner, you climb a building, and now you have high ground on your opposition. Either way, taking these into account is going to be a huge game changer for stacking your damage, because the biggest rule of thumb I can give you is you can't stack damage if you're downed, right? If you take a fight that you can't win, and you end up getting downed, guess what? Your teammate is going to clean up the rest of that damage, and maybe they won't even. Maybe it'll just end the game prematurely. Either way, it's better to live to fight another day than to die early in the game. So definitely bail and reposition if need be. Tip number 9 is loot quickly after fights. Remember, people chase gunshots in Apex Legends, so if you finish a fight, you better believe that someone is on the way to third party you. They may be 1 second away, or they may be 30 seconds away. But just to be safe, it's best to loot boxes as quickly as possible. So, when you're first in a box, do a shield swap right off the bat. Shield swapping is replacing your broken or damaged shield for a fresh shield. That'll give you an instant boost of HP. From there, get ammo if you need it, get big heals if you need them, such as medkits, shield batteries, and phoenix kits. From there, get out of the box and use a medkit or a syringe to get your actual HP full. I think a lot of people tend to lose third-party situations is because they're not fully healed, because they're in the box looking for attachments, and yes, they shield swap, but they also have 10 HP, so instead of having a full purple shield and 200 damage, they only have 110. It is so important to get fully healed before the next team pushes you. And sometimes that's not the case, but the more equipped you are to fend off the other opposing team, the more probability you have to win that third-party engagement. So be in and out of a box. You do not want to get your hands caught in the cookie jar. So definitely go for a shield swap, go for ammo and heals, and then if you have the excess time, you don't hear footsteps or anything like that, then you can survey for attachments. But if you're gonna do that, I would suggest knowing what you're looking for. Because you may be watching my gameplay and saying, hey Mike, like, I see you grabbing attachments, but it's also because I'm very conscious of what I need. Like, I'm very conscious of saying, hey, I have a blue mag right now. If I see a purple mag in this box, I'm gonna grab it, you know? And knowing what's in your inventory currently is a big help as well, because I can loot boxes, attachments and all, faster than usually my teammates can loot just kind of getting ammo and heals. So practice looting boxes. The faster you can loot a box and get up to full health before the third party arrives, the more likelihood that you're going to survive that third-party encounter and live to see another day. Tip number 10, our final tip of the video, is don't obsess over the milestone. Now, I know it's easy to obsess over it, that's why you're watching this video, but I've realized that the more time I focus on getting a 3K game or getting a 2K game, the more times I end up making stupid mistakes or coming up short altogether. So what I suggest is just using the rest of the tips that we went over in this video, and it will happen organically, I promise you. I can't tell you how many times I've finished a game and I'm like, wow, I did 2K that game, or wow, I did 3K that game, I didn't even realize it. The less you focus on the milestone and the more you focus on just putting bullets on bodies and getting your team in a position to win the game altogether, the more likelihood you're going to get to that damage benchmark. So don't stress about the milestone. Just play, have fun, and go off. And that wraps up this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below which tips were helpful, which ones weren't helpful, or which ones you think I left off this list altogether. Also, be sure to drop in the comments any content ideas that will help you step up your play as an Apex Legends player, because that's what this channel is all about, helping you step into the savagery that you know you can become. I promise you guys, when you're really good at this game, it's a hell of a lot more fun. So with that being said, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, be sure to hit that subscribe button for future content, and I will see you guys in the next video.